Hello, and welcome to The Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Australian writers and other creatives.
And I'm Lynne Testoni. I'm a journalist and content writer as well. Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we bring you all kinds of tips, tricks, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business.
I used spreadsheets for 15 years.
Oh my God, did you?
I know. But as my business grew, I grew out of the spreadsheets.
Yes.
And it got harder to sort of keep on top of all my invoicing and quoting and things like that. And Rounded was the accounting software that finally converted me. And it helped simplify my taxes and also just let me take ownership of what goes on in my freelance business. And I love that I've got visibility over my finances, so I can see what's happening with my cash flow and all the other insights that are on the dashboard.
I know, the dashboard is so cool. I love a good pie chart, and I love the whole thing because it makes it so much easier to work it out.
Yeah.
And don't forget, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, you can save 20% on any annual Rounded plan, even if you're an existing customer. So see the show notes for details. Hi, Rach. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. But before we start chatting with our guest, who I'm very excited about, by the way, I just wanted to give another shout out to the Content Bite Summit and remind our listeners that tickets are selling fast.
Yes, we have actually seen a really big flurry of sales this week, which is good to see.
Yeah,
Quite
end
exciting.
of financial year.
We're getting to the pointy end of the financial year.
Yeah.
Mm.
But of course, the podcast goes on, which is exciting as well. And this week we have another inspiring writer, journalist and editor, Akash Arora. Akash and I worked together many years ago and on and off, and we see each other around the traps. And he's always impressed me with his great writing and his amazing editing skills. I actually think he's one of the best sub-editors I've ever worked with.
Mm.
Yeah. Are you happy to introduce Akash?
Absolutely, yep. Born and raised in India, Akash has worked and lived in 4 major cities around the world: Sydney, London, New Delhi, and New York. And he started his career in India working as a fashion correspondent for one of the country's biggest newspapers, the Hindustan Times. I hope I've said that right. Maybe I haven't. Before moving to Australia to study Master of Arts in Journalism at the University of Technology in Sydney. Since then, Akash has worked for some of the most respected publications around the world, from Wallpaper magazine in London to monthlies such as Australian Good Taste, Delicious, and Gourmet Traveller in Australia. Somewhere along the way, he honed his skills as a travel writer and editor, working for the in-flight magazines of airlines such as Qantas and Virgin. And during the COVID-19 years, Akash worked as a digital editor and journalist for SBS News, covering a diverse array of topics for one of Australia's most respected news websites, from the future of the pandemic to the conflict in Ukraine. And he's now the deputy editor of Explore, the Saturday travel section of the Canberra Times, and 13 other newspapers published by Australian community media. Akash lives with his partner in Sydney, but we know that he is currently in the Maldives.
We do.
Welcome, Akash.
Thank you very much, Lynn, and thank you, Rachel, for having me on your podcast. And thank you for your kind words, Lynn.
Oh, that's okay. Your work has always been amazing, and it's so good to highlight great operators such as yourself on the podcast. And you are living the dream of a travel writer, because we can see that you're on the Maldives in one of those beautiful overwater villas. It looks amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, our listeners can't see, but we were just looking over the balcony of this incredible overwater bungalow. And Akash has jumped off that balcony, he told us. So, yeah, lucky him. We're a bit jealous.
So tell us a little bit about your career, because you worked in a lot of magazines. So what have been some of the highlights?
Look, there have been a lot of highlights. I was first a print journalist, and then I became a digital journalist, and now I'm doing a bit of both. There have been a few highlights over the years. I'll probably start off with perhaps the very beginning. As Rach mentioned, I worked for Hindustan Times at the very start of my career as a fashion and lifestyle journalist. At that time, I got the opportunity to interview people like Richard Branson and Pierce Brosnan and Jerry Hall. And for someone who was not even in his 20s to be having that opportunity, and particularly at that time when that sort of talent was really inaccessible, was an absolute highlight.
Oh,
Then I
wow.
came to Australia and I started working for Australian newspapers and magazines, but then around 2008, and this is my second highlight. I was living in London. I was working for a newspaper, a design magazine called Wallpaper, and my office was right next to Tate Modern, and which meant that in my lunch break, I just had to cross the Millennium Bridge, get to the Pret a Manger, grab my salad, and sit on the steps of St. Paul's Cathedral and enjoy my lunch. And I felt that was one of the most incredible ways to experience, live, and work in that city.
So amazing. Mm.
Fast forward 6 or 7 more years, and I was working for Qantas magazine, traveling all over the world in a very fortunate job. And, going to some incredible places as the features director of a travel magazine, staying in some incredible places. But the one single thing that really stands out is going to Venice and staying in a hotel, which was once a palazzo, but then got transformed into this beautiful, luxurious hotel called Aman. And it's where George Clooney and Amal got married. So all of that made it very special.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think that you and I kind of, crossed paths many times at Rachel's List, and especially when you were chief subbing and that sort of thing. But I really find it fascinating that you have this commitment to travel journalism. And I know how addictive it can be. I used to do a lot of travel writing before I became a parent. Is that really your main love, getting on a plane, going and reviewing these places, or is there something else you prefer?
No, it is definitely my main love, and I know that because a few years ago, I was working for Qantas magazine as their features editor, features director. But then after that stint, during the pandemic years, I decided to do something completely different. I've always wanted to do hard news. So I left my job at Qantas magazine and I went into the hard news world, and I started working for SBS News. And I also wanted to diversify because I've always been a print journalist, and I really wanted to test the waters, see what the digital world was like. Will I survive and thrive, or will I drown?
Yeah.
And so, and I love the job. I definitely think I survived and thrived.
Yeah.
But during that time, I really started missing travel. So I planned my return to travel. And I guess being in travel, not being in travel, and then missing it so much that I decided I want to come back to travel, really solidified in my mind that it was my main love.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
makes
We
sense.
had Harry Richards on recently, didn't we? Talking, she was SBS, she went to SBS
Yes.
Lynne. Is that right?
That's
She was
right.
talking about, having a casual news job and then fitting freelancing in around that. But it sounds like that wasn't an option. You just wanted to get back to travel kind of full time.
Yeah. Look, I was working full time for Qantas, then I was working full time for SBS, and now I'm working full time for Explore. So I've always wanted to, as much as possible, stay full time. Not that I haven't been a freelance writer, but I prefer the full time gig.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know that sometimes there's a lot of challenges being a travel writer because when you're away, it's sort of nice to sort of think about, sitting in one of those bungalows, but at the same time, you've got to write stories, you take lots of notes. And then, of course, if you're away all the time, it's really hard to have a normal home life. How do you balance all that?
I think you're absolutely right, Lynn. It is hard to have a normal home life. I'm very lucky in that respect. I don't have kids and I don't have pets. And I have a partner who's always willing to travel with me. So that challenge is when he can travel with me. So there are not a lot of challenges from that point of view, but it is hard to stay on a diet or a healthy diet. Or stick to a fitness regime, because that is the most disruptive thing about traveling again and again.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? But also, one of the reasons I occasionally get offered travel things, but I find it hard to go away for 5 days and not have 5 stories to show for it because that's the way my business is set up. How do you manage the writing and the traveling?
I guess being a full-time employee is slightly different. We can discuss with the experience provider or the tourism body what the execution would be in terms of newspaper articles or reels or social media posts, or we go on that particular assignment. And so it gives us the opportunity to judge how full on it is going to be or how manageable it is going to be.
Yeah, fair enough.
Wow, you mentioned just before that you have done some freelancing. Tell me about that and what what you enjoyed about it.
Yeah, so I think my most exciting freelance time was when I left my job in Sydney, a full-time job in Sydney for Virgin Australia magazine at that time, and decided to go to New York and write for Australian newspapers and magazines from there. I really found, I think the most amazing thing about freelancing is that you can do it from anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
You can say no, because if you're not interested in an assignment, or if you just don't want to do something on a particular time in, say, a week or month, you can just say no. I think that is the most exciting thing about it. The disadvantage of freelancing is that it can be, as everyone knows, a little unpredictable. Sometimes things may come all at once, and sometimes there's nothing. So that is the biggest disadvantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're now at Explore. So tell us about your role there and how travel writing has changed, in recent years, because it has changed quite a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely has. So I'm the deputy editor at Explore, which is the travel section for 14 newspapers published by Australian community media, including, Canberra Times, Bendigo Advertiser, and Newcastle Herald. In my role, I primarily assist the Explore editor, Sarah Maguire, and Kate Cox, who is the head of travel at ACM, in putting together this beautiful travel section week after week after week after week. It is relentless.
A hungry beast.
Yeah. It's a hungry beast, but it is a very, very exciting job. Speaking of how travel journalism has changed, look, I think at the very core, good, beautiful, engaging writing hasn't changed.
Yeah.
What used to work 20 years ago, 10 years ago, still does. What has changed, however, is the packaging. So obviously the print story is there, but how would you package it for online? Is it about rejigging the intro or making the intro more SEO friendly? Is it about placing some very, very engaging videos right at the top of your story or towards the top of your story so engagement goes up? Is it about summarizing your story into a 60-second video that can be published on social media when the story goes live? And we are doing actually a lot of that as well. So yes, it has changed, but there are some classic hallmarks of good writing and journalism that have remained unchanged.
Oh my goodness, it sounds busy. Like getting that one piece of content and slicing it up in all those different ways. That's complex. I mean, I think we all do it a little bit, but I can imagine the pressure to get all that content out. Take us through the average week. Are you doing that all the time, or are you sharing it around the team?
I think we are sharing it among the team, but also we are identifying moments. So just because I'm in Maldives doesn't mean that I have to make a reel and make a video of it, even though it would lend itself to a very good video and reel. But when I was in Gold Coast recently, we identified a specific moment, a specific story. So while I will be writing about Maldives and I will be writing about the Gold Coast for my newspaper, I won't necessarily be making a video or a reel for each and every destination. It's about exercising that editor's lens. It's also about keeping in mind we have limited resources and what is the best way to make the most of the resources.
Yeah,
So famils, I imagine a lot of them cross your desk.
we should say what a famil is too. It's such an industry term.
I know. I mean, how many of them do you get to go on, and what's the process like? Are you having fights over the in your work in progress meeting going, I'm definitely going to the Maldives? How does all that work?
So a famil is a familiarization trip. which a journalist goes on so that they can write about it and inspire other people to follow in their footsteps. I feel I'm in a very, very fortunate position. A lot of travel editors and travel writers can't actually travel because they are desk bound, or they just have inflexible teams or management that may not necessarily allow them to experience it. So I'm in a very, very fortunate position right now. We get offered a lot of trips from all over the world, and there really is never a uh, fight for I want to go here, because we have such a busy travel, work, and story filing schedule based on where we have already been, that if we don't end up going somewhere, it's actually, it has a silver lining. So you've got some time to just sit down and write about it. So, well, as long as we are encouraged to travel, because it also informs us as a writer, as an editor that takes the travel section in a certain direction. And it informs us as a commissioning editor. So when people pitch stories to us, if we have been to that destination ourselves, we have some sort of a context. So we are not blindly commissioning stories. And as long as there is Wi-Fi, as long as I can do my day-to-day job, I'm very fortunate to be able to travel.
Is there a destination that you haven't been that, is on your bucket list?
Yeah, there's always a destination on the bucket list. Once you tick off your bucket list, suddenly the bucket list expands, and
Yeah.
there are new that appear on it. I've been meaning to go to Egypt for a very long time, and I haven't made my way there, but it is definitely somewhere I want to go at some stage.
Oh, nice. I know that travel writing is a dream of many journalists and writers, and I'm sure you get a lot of pitches. Do you commit? You said something about commissioning articles, and what do you look for from freelancers?
Yeah. So look, we look for a lot of different things, and there is no set template for what we are after, because sometimes surprising ideas come and we were never looking for something like that, and we still love it and we go for it. But I guess primarily and overarchingly, I would say there are two types of stories that have the most potential of making it into Explorer. One of them is, if it's a well-known, well-trodden destination, then give us something really interesting about it, something really unique about it, something new, a new way to experience that well-trodden destination. The other idea is to pitch a story about something that is completely new and we've never heard of. And it's very exciting because everyone's after new, unexpected experiences. I would say for both of those, though, you never want to go too niche. You always want to keep in mind that whatever you're pitching has got a nice, broad appeal, because we are a newspaper travel section. Our core readership is 25 to 35, and then 55 to 65. So we are looking at a very wide demographic. So we don't want to go too niche.
Yeah.
Well, we're often asked about how travel pitching differs from other types of pitching. And I know that when I was doing lots of travel writing, especially in the beginning, I got a couple of big features in Escape, but I sent the entire piece along with my photos, which were at that point on slide film, and both of them got picked up immediately. I feel that is amateurish to do that. Like, I was starting out when I did that. I always think it's better to pitch an idea and include photos if it's a travel piece. Is that the case, or are you often buying pieces that might be, a fully fleshed out piece, a fully written piece with photos? Does that make your job easier, or do you always just prefer the idea?
So in the past 8 years that I have been a travel editor at Qantas magazine and then at Explore, I've never accepted an article that was written already
Yep.
and ticked all the boxes. I think the reason for that is it may have worked maybe 10, 15, 20 years when travel writing didn't have to work that hard, but now it does have to work very hard. And I might tip for one of my biggest tips to anyone who wants to pitch a story to a travel section of a newspaper or a travel magazine is to understand that there is an incredible amount of competition out there, that we are being pitched about 200, 150 stories a month. And one of the best and most key things that you could do is to really study the publication that you are pitching to. Try and understand what sort of stories they are doing, what sort of voice and tone they are writing those stories in, what sort of format they are following, and then pitch a story that hopefully fits into one of those formats. But also give an option to the editor that if this doesn't work, we are happy to take your lead on how you would like us to execute this idea.
Mm. Are you also looking specifically, I think this is probably a very new thing as well, with the writers that come to you, are you looking at their social media profiles, how much they share, their published stories, how much they loop you in on LinkedIn and extend that reach of the story? Is that a factor in commissioning these days?
I would say that is definitely a consideration, but it is not the key to it. Because at the end of the day, whether it was Qantas magazine or whether it is Explore, we definitely need a strong, engaging article from you. If we are commissioning you a 2,000-word story or a 1,200-word story or an 800-word story, we want that story to be super strong, because we don't want to compromise for your great LinkedIn or social media profile a story that fundamentally does not work in print or online for that matter.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a consideration, but it's not a deal maker, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's interesting.
So tell us a little bit about what you're working on now. Is it always there's probably a bit of planning and commissioning and then some writing as well? Is that how it works?
Yeah. So as part of my job at Explore, I do a lot of writing. I do a lot of editing and sub-editing, and I do commissioning for special issues of Explore. And I also manage the website for Explore.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
big.
yeah.
That's a lot.
Yes.
But I mean, there are days set aside for each of these tasks. And once you settle into a nice rhythm, I think you can make it work. The only disruptive factor then is suddenly travel comes along and, you are on a flight during working hours, or you
In a
are
different time zone.
in a different time zone, exactly. And so you just have to work around those aspects. And I think if you are very well organized, I think that's the key to it. You need to be really, really well organized and on the ball. And if you can organize that stuff, you should be able to do that.
Mhm. What skills have you had to learn, or what skills are you looking to learn, to help you in your job?
I'm constantly learning. Going to SBS News was one of the best decisions of my life. It was a very, very high-speed environment. It was completely digital. It opened my eyes to different types of CMSs and devices that hard news uses, such as newsletters or breaking news notifications or Google panels on Google News and Apple notifications, and so that was a really good educational process. And I just feel like in this day and age, we have to be very nimble and we have to constantly evolve. And for me, my latest project has been at ACM. There is a company-wide emphasis and push towards news journalists creating their own videos. So we do have a video department that will definitely help us put together the video, but they are not there with you on the ground. So as a journalist, you are, of course, collecting material for your story, but you're also collecting footage on iPhone and using that footage and finding a narrative about a story while you're there on the ground and bringing that back and either putting the video together yourself or sharing those assets with the video team who can create a video. And I'm really enjoying that process. I was in the Gold Coast recently and I created my first video reel. It was about a minute and a half about the new Gold Coast.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, is we're constantly learning.
I'm so envious that you have a video department that you can just go and knock on the door and they'll show you how to put a reel together. Because that's something as freelancers, it's so much trial and error. We're watching videos on Instagram to try and find out all those little tricks to make, your own reels.
We're very fortunate. In fact, our video department has created a Canvas template.
Yep.
So as long as you have got the narrative of the story in mind, the clips and what the intro and the outro, yeah, you can pretty much easily put it together.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's
Yeah.
very cool. Mm. Well, we like to ask our guests for their tech tips. Are there any digital tools that you use and recommend, as a travel writer, or perhaps, with video, anything that you love or you'd be lost without?
Look, I use my iPhone 15 Pro for everything, for recording, for editing, for downloading, for uploading. I recently found this really nice device. It's called Ulanzi. It's a mic that you can plug into your phone, and you can have a lapel mic here. And it's really good if you want to record from a distance and you want your voice to be clear. That's something that I really use. And a couple of really cool apps that I use are Mojo for creating reels and InShot for creating videos.
Yeah.
And yeah, they are a lot easier to work on your phone than on Instagram. Editing a video on Instagram can be a bit tricky, but InShot is pretty good.
Oh, I'll have
that's
to check
good.
those out. I don't know those two. Yeah.
It is amazing what you can do with an iPhone, and out in we would be lost. And it's always with you too. You can always, it must be good as a travel writer you've always got basically a microphone and an ability to interview somebody or take photos wherever you are. And you're
Yeah.
not out of place.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, my video team sent me a vlogger kit recently, and it had a lot of different equipment. And I took it to, so I never used it. With my phone and my mic was enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the days of like carting a big SLR with all my lenses, in a separate bag and everything.
Yeah.
And it was quite sad when I stopped doing my last trip on slide film was Morocco. I still remember that, because then I moved on to digital and then ended up, just on the phone and stuff. But yeah, it's
It's amazing.
quite a sad and bittersweet transition.
Do you think, I know half our listeners are dreaming about being a travel writer.
Yeah.
What can they learn, or what's important for them to know about being a travel writer?
If you are thinking about being a travel writer for a newspaper or a magazine, I would say a good base in journalism is very, very important. If you are planning to be a travel journalist on Instagram or TikTok, then that's a completely different ballgame. But if you're planning, yeah, I think a lot of people assume that, they could just go on a travel, not a travel assignment, but a holiday and pitch a story about it and write. Travel writing is actually one of the hardest things to write about. How do you engage an audience while you're telling them about where you went and what you did? That's pretty hard. It's very easy to engage an audience when you say to them, this is what the government has decided about the income tax rebate, and this is how it affects you. Readers are very selfish. They are interested in what benefits them. So how do you travel like that? So I would say a good base in journalism is very important. And also, one thing that I have realized throughout my entire career, there are different departments in a newspaper. There is politics, there's economics, there's finances, there is fashion, there is travel, there's food, there's design. None of these departments, like if as a travel writer, if I would never go to a business editor and say, hey, I've just invested in this firm and I want to write a story about on that topic. Or I've just bought this suit for myself and I want to write a story about that trend. I would never say that to a fashion editor. But all these people come to a travel editor and say, hey, I'm going on a holiday. Can I write about this? and, and we haven't I've come across that all the time. And one of the other things that we come across quite often is freelance writers sending us an email and saying, I'm going on this holiday, or I have been offered this famil. Would you be interested in the story? And I actually feel that that is the worst way to pitch to a travel editor, because that to me straight away says that you want to write about it, not because it's a good story, but because you're going there or have been worse still offered a famil. The best way to go about it is to figure out what sort of stories the publication is doing. How can your story fit into that mold?
Mm.
Come up with a kick-ass short paragraph, what the story is, and then tell us you're going there as part of a holiday or as part of a famil in 6 weeks' time, and you can deliver the story in 10 weeks' time with
Yeah.
images and video assets if you like. And that makes a kick-ass, irresistible pitch.
Are you always looking for people to, add to your roster who might potentially, if you guys can't go on a famil, the team can't go on a famil, you commission those out as well?
We do, but that's rare because
Yeah.
ACM has got some incredible journalists.
Yeah.
So for us to go for a freelancer and have to offer them a freelance fee, we also have to figure out, we have to also justify it to our own management. But also because we have got some incredible writers, why would we go outside the company?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes
Okay. Well,
sense.
that's interesting. That's good to know as well.
Yeah.
So much
Wow.
to think about.
So much. It's so interesting chatting to you, Akash. It's because I think it's also proven, even though you have this sort of dream job, it's hard work.
Oh, yeah.
It is fun though. It is fun. As I said, if you're organized and if you can, keep your ducks in a row, it's not too bad.
Yeah. Well, that's a good place to end it on, isn't it?
Look, someone's got to do it, don't they?
Yeah. So tell our listeners where they can find out more about you.
And follow you.
Well, they can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is akash.arora.ink. Yeah, that would be probably the best way to follow me.
Okay.
Well, I do, and I always live vicariously through all your travels, so that's good.
Oh, thank you so much, Lynne. And thank you, Rach. Thanks for having me on this podcast. Very, very, very honored to be on it.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
thank you. That brings us to the end of the show this week. But thanks for everyone who's been listening and sharing us. And if you like the show, please leave us a rating and a review. We always say we're going to read those out. We never do, but we probably will. So
Yes.
at some
Thanks.
point.
And
Yeah.
we'll see everyone again next week.
Will. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye. Thanks again to our wonderful sponsors, Rounded, easy accounting and invoicing software that helps freelancers run their business with confidence.
And don't forget, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, you can check your welcome emails for an exclusive discount code on the annual subscription rate. You can also find it in the private Facebook Gold group, or just contact us at hello@rachelslist.com.au.